JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. May 1st, 2024, about 2:48 on this Fed day. Powell speaking right now. I don't think he's going to say anything mind-blowing, so I got off. Well, he's still here, but he's just answering some questions. But they didn't really do much in the way of change any kind of dovish or hawkish spin. They just decided that they're going to let less roll off in regards to their assets. Mortgage, I think it's the mortgage-backed securities they're going to let they're gonna they're gonna cut back on one of those. I'm not sure which one, but that's more. I guess I would spin that a little dovish, but we'll have to see how things play out. Spies back over 504.50. I mean, went through like a hot knife through butter. We're up here at 506 right now, so I think it's setting things up pretty good. And then we have Apple tomorrow. We have the jobs report Friday, so maybe we can find some buyers here and recoup the losses from yesterday and uh, start May off in good style. So good stuff so far. It didn't look so great. Yesterday, you would think it was almost like the Fed leaked what they were talking about on there because they have a 2-day meeting. So it started yesterday. So you start to wonder, hey, did someone leak that they're gonna really spin it hawkish? But he's pretty much saying the same things he's always said, and data dependent, and he always talks about his mandates and inflation. So anyway, so that's that. Well, hopefully the spy holds up here. There's no crazy snafus from him in the last couple of questions, and I think that'll bode well. Take a look. The 50-day moving average stocks down to 40% now. Still watching those, but the good sign here is the VIX, and VIX is down over 5% at 1479. It was holding flat and pretty much melted. And I wouldn't say melting; it was still green. But even though the market was down, it continues to be a great tell for possible market direction. So I'll continue to look at the VIX, the 50-day moving average, things like that. So some of the names today, so take a look at IIPR. Despite the move down in some of the other cannabis names, almost like I wouldn't call it, it's not a relief. The smoking rally yesterday, it seems like people are taking some profits. I think probably went too far too fast in some of the names. I think CGC and ACB will be back to those levels, if not higher, in the coming days. But when you have a stock move up 80%, uh, you have to think at some point there's going to be a little pullback. And the next day, typically people wake up and say, let me just take profits, and it becomes a snowball. But take a look today at IIPR, got those 110 May strikes when things started to really take off on that DEA news. And then some continuation today, despite the pullback in the cannabis names. If you look at any name that I think is as a whole is just going to completely benefit from the shift and the increased demand and the lower tax, they were able to companies to be able to write off things and get deductions. It's just a whole in regards to profits and revenue and all that stuff. It just bodes well for that sector. And IIPR's front and center. It's the real going to take care of all the needs of folks who are looking to build stores and warehouses and greenhouses and all that fun stuff. So I look at IIPR and I'm like, this thing. You start looking at the chart. So first, I pulled up a slide. I posted it in the chat room, and let's see if I can get it on here. Sorry, folks. Uh, Whoever's on audio can hear this. But look at that. And it's a REIT, right? So they're just making money on tenants. And then they write whatever is 20, 30-year terms. So then as they start to pay things down, the interest and all, it's just compound. The more tenants they get, the better it's going to be. They pay their debt down. They have a dividend. So just a win-win for. Hey folks, I thought I was on audio, so I recorded it. Apologize for that. The rest will be on the blog this later. But I'm talking about IIPR. So take a look at IIPR. Now it's at 108 here. Got those calls yesterday. I just think it's one of those names it's regardless of what these other cannabis names, they all have risk, right? IIPR doesn't. It's going to be huge growth. So they're going to do well regardless of what these individual names do because they're going to get people their stores, the warehouses, the greenhouses, all that fun stuff. That's what they do. And the more tenants they have, and this is a company, I think they're 6 years old now. It's a company that has experienced directors and leadership who already ran a REIT that got sold or liquidated for billions of dollars. And then they went and saw an opportunity here in the cannabis space. And I keep saying this cannabis regulation stuff and everything that's going on recently and for the last couple of years is finally it's coming to fruition. The ballot vote in Florida in November, all these different states are going to come on board, especially if the DA reclassifies marijuana. It's just a great thing. So anyway, so I got those May 110s already locked some in. I'll probably lock some more in before the close. And I went and I got some June strikes. So call me crazy. I think this goes to 130, 140, 150. Take a look at the chart. You pull it back, and I'll post in the chat room here. But you look at the resistance is around 120. And then once it gets over 120, I think it's off to the races. So, I mean, call me crazy. You know, I talk about it too. That they pay out. I think they paid out $7-8 in dividends last year. So I mean, do the math. You gotta be careful with that ex-divi date because that'll take $1.80 or $2 chunk out of the stock price the next day and give the illusion of inexpensive call options. But I think their next divvy date's not till July. So got those June strikes, and they're already looking great. Hopefully, it breaks double digits here and they'll look even better. So that's IIPR. Love that name. Got my strikes. Lock a couple more Mays in before the close and go from there. CDLX finally, after a couple, well, almost a week or so of saying I was going to add calls into earnings, they report earnings after the close a week from today. Take a look at the chart. I found the 50-day moving average 4 sessions ago, just starting to melt higher here. Story hasn't changed outside that offering and dilution, which kind of surprised folks. Stock was all the way up into the 20s. They announced a new partnership with Amex. I talk about all the great things that Cardlytics does that makes them a great growth story. Having line of sight to over 50% of all transactions in the United States. So they're not only the data company, they can promise 5 times return on investment for advertisers. There's so many good things that Cardlytics does. Uh, Eventually, the stock price will start reflecting that. So hopefully, can get up 16, $17 before earnings next week. And then I can lock some in, cover some costs, and hold the rest. But really love Cardlytics. Thankfully, got some strikes today to encompass the earnings and go from there. I posted a little blurb about TERN. TERN, I think I did on FinTwit, but turns, it's called turns, not called turn. Let's see if I can get it in here in the chat room. But I already posted this yesterday, the day before. The company has $263 million in cash. There's a $320 million market cap. They have their phase 1 data of their oral GLP-1 drug will be out in the back half of 2024. They have 4 studies going on right now. I use the analogy because if you look at Manadoctor, which is a Philippines company or Singapore company that just went public, at a $4 offering price. I don't even know what the market capitalization was. Stock went up to $25. It's a $776 million company. And then you have a company like Turns that if they have great data in the second half of 2024, it's going to be $25, $30, $40 stock. I wouldn't call it the VKTX just yet, but 2 times here, $10 is 600 million, $20. Let me check the outstanding share count because I don't have that up yet. So I mean, if $20 stock on turns, let's see here. I type in turns, apologies. Yeah, so they have 64 million shares outstanding. So at $20, that's 1.2 billion. At $30, that's 1.8 billion. So you look at the valuation and what's going on with MVO, which is going to report earnings, I believe, tomorrow before the open, LLY, and then what obviously with VKTX, you're like, how is a companies like this not pocket acquisitions? And I posted that slide this morning that was shared on FinTwit around all these big market cap bio names that have no hands in the GLP-1 space. And I remember back in the day and I said this morning when I was following Intercept Pharmaceuticals, Gilead was gobbled up 2 small cap NASH names, which those phase studies went the way of the wayside, but they were same kind of market cap, $200-300 million, kind of like little pocket acquisitions. So someone could come out and get turns for $1 billion, 150%, 200, 300% premium, and it trades almost at cash. So the other thing is the company said their cash has runway through at least the start of 2026. So there's no dilution on the horizon. Anyway, I can go on for a while. That's why I keep adding calls. I was able to play it for some gains back in March, April. Then I added some more strikes. Those expired. Back in, I may look for some later dated strikes to cover the back half while the premiums remain low because at some point it's going to take off and I'll be kicking myself. Similar to VKTX when I sold my March 20 strikes for 1,000% or what have you, only to see it up to 10,000% when the data came out. Anyway, rants for other days. Trupanion starting to spike here, 2468, which I think was the high it hit 2 days ago. Let's see if I have my chart because I don't have the full chart. That makes it easy to see with my data. So Trupanion hit 24. The high 2 days ago was 2465, so broke Monday's high. So you would thought it was getting written off for dead yesterday. Stock sold off, broke on lows, low volume, no buyers, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's starting to rally. What's the bear case today? The narrative. I always search FinTwit just to kind of get sentiment, and then the bear case yesterday was the reviews, right? Oh gosh, Trupanion gets bad reviews, and then the other bear case was, oh my gosh, they don't cover people, they don't cover the claims, right? Because I guess if your insurance company is supposed to cover any claim, but I did that rant yesterday. Today it's about Trupanion cleansing Glassdoor reviews of negative comments from management, right? So again, I don't use, typically when you're an employee and you don't do a good job, what happens? If you have good leadership, you probably know you didn't do a good job, right? You talked about, maybe you gotten some written documentation on it. You've probably been told a couple times, and at some point you get to the point where, hey, you do this again, you're getting fired. And it's probably not a pleasant conversation. So what employees do when they get fired, they write bad reviews, because how else? They're not paying me anymore. I don't have to worry about this or that, and they write bad reviews. I'm not saying every single Glassdoor review is biased or what have you, but a lot of times that's what happens, and they're bringing up these Glassdoor reviews like Trupanion is checking the Glassdoor reviews and getting them erased. That's number one. And number two, if you're a good company that does well and has manages employees, trains them, coaches them, holds them account, does all that fun stuff, and then they don't work out, then you're doing your job as a management team, right? And typically that employee probably doesn't have a great experience because they don't work there anymore. So what are the, so what do you expect? You expect every review on Glassdoor or any employment review site to be raving about the directors and management team? To me, I almost take it as a good thing. And when I always bring up Elon Musk. Like Elon Musk's probably not an easy person to work for. He's probably very demanding, right? You don't you don't set the bar low to get where you need to go. You set it high, and that's what Musk, pun intended, he sets the bar to Mars, and he hopes he gets to Mars. But if he doesn't, he's still pushing, right? That's what you got to do. And rants for other days. So again, it's this narrative. They keep spinning different narratives on Trupanion. The reviews from customers, reviews from employees, the uh, that they don't cover the claims. Just comical. We'll see. We'll find out tomorrow. Hopefully the earnings somewhat in line, and I think that'll be enough. They already had a snafu the quarter before. They weren't able to actually release their filing because there was a break of internal controls, which again the bears spin it like they're finagling the numbers, but it doesn't mean they're finagling the numbers. Again, here's a company, they've been around forever, publicly traded, transparent, auditors, the CFO. So if you have fraud going on for that long, the CFO is going to, people are going to go to jail. So you're telling me that people are going to go to jail to commit a fraud to give good numbers on a pet insurance company that's already under the radar? That's, insurance is a heavily regulated sector. So you have to have certain capital reserves. You have different attorney general things in every state you have to comply with. So to think that they're committing fraud, which is what some of the accusations are from Trupanion over the last year, is just, anyway, it just drives me nuts. And that's the reason why I went long Riley a couple weeks ago, because similar arguments. Like, all right, so hopefully Trupanion inline numbers. Lemonade this morning reported great results. Sold off after the morning gap, back down to 1656, and it's back in the green here. So I think that's a good sign. All right, so that's my rant for Trupanion. What else did I do? Cardlytics. The CGC. If you look at the candle on CGC, it's actually not that bad. I hate to lose money on my calls. Well, I wouldn't say lose money because they were pretty much almost written off yesterday before they came back to life. But this chart still doesn't look good. Yesterday's open and close is still you're encompassing that, and if it stays within that and then eventually consolidates, and then I think it breaks higher. I'd be worried if it broke the lows, but obviously it'd be a huge move to the downside on CGC to get that. I'm trying to think of some other things. Yeah, so here we are, almost 508 on the SPY. The great bear market of April 30th, 2024, between the hours of 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock. It's officially over. Ring the bell. The bear market's over. Being sarcastic. Um, I'm sitting here and I was watching Dell at the open. So, I mean, I still have May strikes, but those are pending any crazy move, which I've seen crazier things. I mean, Dell moved that huge move at the start of April. Um, I'll probably just wait a little bit, maybe find some footing tomorrow or Friday, and I might start to get to look at some June strikes. but I was surprised Dell wasn't down that much. Supermicro was getting hammered, AMD was getting hammered. The market seemed like it was ready to get hammered, and then Dell was barely down 1% for a while, and then it finally down to 117 and bounced. So at some point, maybe I'll look to enter some of those calls. Well, later dated strikes. Turns is looking good here. Oh, so after the close today, Carvana. I already did it this morning with my little rant. I'm not bearish Carvana. I'm not. I have never traded it. I know some conversation. I've seen it not only in the chat room but other places where they talk about the insider sales on Carvana. The thing is, they're 10-5B1 plans, which means the CEO and directors, when you see that, it means that it's a pre-planned sale with your accountant. So your accountant or whoever, your lawyer, they set up a plan that let's say you have 1 million shares, and they say, we're going to sell you a block of your shares, 5,000 shares every 2 months on the third Friday of the month or whatever. And then when they sell it, you got to do the filing. And then people see it and think that it's the insider scrambling to exit the company. But meanwhile, it's just, I mean, I've always been a big on the insider buy, not as big on the insider sale. Because I'm like, number one, when you get shares, that's your part of your compensation package, right? So when you get shares, that's great, but you would think you want to be compensated. So the only time you're going to get compensated, unless you use your shares somehow as leverage on some kind of asset purchase or what have you, the only way you're going to get compensated is if you sell your shares. So people think that CEOs, directors are supposed to hold their shares forever, but that's not the case. That's number one. Number two, you would I, when insiders sell, like the CFO or some kind of accountant or whatever, you have to assume you're kind of saying if they sell that they know the valuation very well of the company. Maybe they know the inner workings pretty well, but to me, I never really bought too much into insider sells. On the flip side, I always big fan of insider buys. Anyway, similar when you have insider sales, it always opens the opportunity for people to question your intent, right? So if you don't have that 10-5B1 plan and you do an insider sale, usually raises red flags, especially if there's some kind of material event that moves your stock down in the coming weeks. So that's why I'm always like, when people sell, it's not because they're like, oh, gotta exit my position in the company that I'm a director of because it's getting killed. I think it's a totally different story. So anyway, that's with Carvana. I mean, it's already up. Was it up 8% today? It's a tough name. It can go either way. I mean, it could be down 40% tomorrow. It could be up 40% tomorrow, and I wouldn't be surprised. And when it's that, and I don't have a conviction on either side, I'll tend to stay on the sidelines. So if you think it's going to go down and you think substantial, severe out of the money blottos might work on both sides. Just I don't have a conviction. So that's Carvana. Qualcomm reports Etsy Dash all after the close. And tomorrow we have NVO. NVO report earnings like 1 or 2 in the morning because it's a European company. It's Swedish. Where is it? I forget what. Not Swedish. It's like the number. NVO is like bigger. The capitalization of NVO is like bigger than the country. It's Das Mild. And how do you pronounce that? TOC Doc Mild. A tongue twister. NVO. Let's see. Trying to think where they are. Are they Danish? Is that what it is? Danish, yeah. Okay. Interesting stuff. So that's NVO tomorrow. Peloton. I used to love Peloton. Haven't traded that one in years. Shake Shack, Wayfair, Trupanion, Regeneron. Regeneron's been on a tear. That I mean, just it hasn't moved much on earnings recently, so I'll probably just stay away. $100 billion market cap, $13 billion in sales. Let's see what the last couple moves on Regeneron. I used to trade that back when it was like $300. It used to be a lot of fun to trade. It's not as fun anymore because the spreads are insane. So even if you get it on the right side, exit and enter. Yeah, down 1% last quarter, up 3% the quarter before, up 5%, down 6%. So not that crazy a move. The implied move's 4%. So I don't know if there's much to play on that one. Biogen's a little sneaky here. So because Biogen gets over 220, my calls might come back to life. I mentioned it earlier today. You had Pfizer this morning. You had Biogen last week, and it's like at some point the biotech sector's got to catch fire. I hope it catches fire. I've always thought that the best sector that I like to trade or most rewarding is the biotechs because usually when a stock goes up, it means they have a good product or a good drug. They're solving a need, improving the health of people, and I can make money on it too, right? So Hopefully this is a sign. Biogen, Regeneron tomorrow, NVO tomorrow. Maybe this can start be the start of a rally finally in IBB, because IBB looked like it was starting off the year great, and then it just kind of fizzled. So anyway, that's my rant about 308 here. Market's looking good. A lot of Cardlytics 1350, Trupanion 2467. Yeah, everything's looking great. Biogen's 218, maybe it gets to 220. That'd be great. Um, IIPR is right here, 108 still, 107.82. So good day, good day. Hopefully some of the other names like the CGC and ACB can go. And VKTX would be nice to see that over 80 today, up 7 days in a row. So at some point there'll be a little pullback, but to me, it's a $100 stock. I don't know why it's not trading there yet. Maybe everybody's tied up in options instead of buying the commons. All right, let's have a great day, folks. Rock and roll.